Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jordan Schnitzer Museum of Art tonight. I'm Kristen Becker, the Curator of Education here at the museum. We're super pleased to be collaborating with the Visiting Writer Series again this evening in the English department, bringing Arisa White here to read tonight and speak with us. Welcome. We're so happy to have you. So the museum has 2 exhibitions currently. We will linger maybe for a few minutes after the reading, and as I always try to encourage, think about the words that are spoken here tonight, the words that are shared, and how those might kind of overlap and inform the art that is on view. We kind of really value this collaboration we have with the Visiting Writer Series for that reason, the way that the visual art and the literature and the poetry can kind of benefit from one another. Very quickly, just letting you all know that if you're here for the Common Reading series, we have a QR code. I'm going to put this on the back table. You just want to make sure that you scan that before you leave tonight. And a quick shout out, tomorrow we have another very different kind of vein of writing here at the museum. We have a food writer giving a talk at noon here. Local writer, Spokane-based writer before living down here, Adriana Jonovich, is going to be speaking about her new book, which is about many restaurants and the people behind them in Spokane. So come back tomorrow at noon if you're interested in that. So Cameron McGill, I'd like to welcome you up, Visiting Writer Series, to give our true introduction. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Kristen. Hey, everybody. How are you? You look good? You feeling good? I'm glad to see you. Thank you, Kristen, and the museum staff for having us for almost all of these Visiting Writer Series events over the last few years. It's a privilege to be able to have the readings here. My name is Cameron McGill. On behalf of myself and my co-director, Julian Ankney at WCU Vancouver, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight, and hello to those joining online. All of our readings are live streamed to our YouTube channel, and then they're archived there, so you can go back and watch the last 5 years or so of readings, and lots of brilliant folks. I thank you for being here, and as we welcome poet and author Arisa White to Washington State University. Washington State University is located on the homelands of the Nimipu and the traditional homelands of the Palouse Band of indigenous people. We acknowledge their presence here since time immemorial and recognize their continuing connection to the land and to the water and to their ancestors. We view the land acknowledgement as a first but necessary step in our work to serve and honor our communities and land-grant mission. The Visiting Writer Series is committed to honoring this acknowledgement by bringing to campus diverse groups of writers working at the top of their fields, whose voices, identities, stories, and perspectives enrich our communities, the minds and lives of our students, and our university as a whole. Our Visiting Writer Series, as always, is made possible by many hearts and minds, partnership with WSU Pullman in Vancouver, English Department, the College of Arts and Sciences, Land Escapes, Native American Programs, WSU Vancouver's Council on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, the Jordan Center Museum of Art, thank you. AOI, I'm not sure what it's called now, but I'm going to just say Rob and Bill for making it happen. Thank you, sincerely. And WSU's Common Reading Program. Common Reading credit, as Kristen said, will be available after the event. Karen, thank you, as always, for your continued partnership and the Common Reading support of the series. Okay, so many people to thank, but that's a lovely thing to have to do, don't you think? I first met Arisa through our connection to Augury Books, which published 2 of her collections, most recently Who's Your Daddy in 2021. It was not until the AWP Lit Conference in 2023 that I finally had the pleasure of meeting Arisa. And it's a lovely thing to meet the work and then the human, and to be enriched twice. And so we're grateful to have her here. I'm in awe of Arisa's work, and specifically in Who's Your Daddy. Poet engages in narrative and lyrical approach to mapping through, fragments is the right word, or vignettes, the familial landscape. As Dara Weir says of the book, there's not only a father's absence and presence, there's a mother who says, quote, "You raise your daughters and love your sons." Throughout the book, the speaker at various ages builds the navigational tools she needs to fill the gaps in her family's map. In the poem, "At 4 years old, I hide behind the door," we learn that her father comes for a visit and the speaker is hoping not to be found by him. Quote, "But Gerald finds me. Calling my name lures me from believing I am an island. Pulls me across waters so indigo there is no bottom. Welcomes me on a shore that slips and slips from under me until my feet trust again. I hear him loud and clear. Why are you running from me? I am your father. My feet resign. Father isn't a place from which I can run." Arisa guides us through this very real excavation and exploration of what it is to come to terms with our families. We're very lucky to have her here. Thank you for joining us. I would like to introduce our Visiting Writer Series intern, Kat Sondrager, who will introduce Arisa. And then there's only 5 more intros after that. We'll be back.
Yeah, it only gets better from here.
That's true. That's totally true.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening in welcoming author Arisa White to Washington State University. My name is Kat Sondrager. I'm a senior here at WSU. I'm an English and psychology double major and the Visiting Writer Series intern for this academic year. For those joining us online, please use the YouTube chat to engage, post your questions, and respond throughout the reading. And we'll also hold a Q&A after the reading where you can ask Arisa your questions. My first encounter with Arisa's work will always be a memorable one. Which is to say, if you haven't read Who's Your Daddy already, I highly recommend it. And I suggest doing so on a 5-hour road trip, making sure to sporadically and abruptly read aloud lines that catch your eye. The other occupants of the car will love it. But in all seriousness, books like Who's Your Daddy and You're the Most Beautiful Thing That Happened are such incredible and critical additions to contemporary literature and their redefinition of what it means to love, what it means to leave, and how enigmatically connected these two things often are. Arisa's The Beautiful Thing project, inspired by You're the Most Beautiful Thing That Happened, is a collection of collaborations between Arisa and queer and trans people of color that calls attention to their personal stories, unique journeys, and revelations within themselves and their communities, providing both a space and a platform to share their stories. Arisa White is an associate professor of English and creative writing at Colby College. She is the author of Who's Your Daddy, co-editor of Home is Where You Queer Your Heart, and co-author of Biddy Mason Speaks Up, the second book in the Fighting for Justice series for young readers. Her poetry is widely published, and her collections have been nominated for an NAACP Image Award, Lambda Literary Award, and have won the Per Diem Poetry Prize, Maine Literary Award, Nautilus Book Award, and an Independent Publisher Book Award, and Golden Crown Literary Award. As the creator of the Beautiful Things Project, Arisa curates poetic collaborations that are rooted in Black queer women's ways of knowing. She is a Cave Canem Fellow and serves on the Maine Writers and Publishers Alliance Community Advisory Board. Currently in development with composer Jessica Jones, Arisa is working on Postpartum the Opera. Thank you, and please give a warm Coug welcome to Arisa White.
Thank you for all of those introductions. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, that's me. Now I have to go like stand in the place of where you've all like opened the door for me to arrive and enter into. So thank you so much for your hospitality, Cameron, for the lovely introduction, and that exhibit with the food is like really exciting. And it's just sort of surprising too that I realized that I wanted to read from You're the Most Beautiful Thing That Happened, and then Who's Your Daddy, and they're actually food related. So, in a very queer way, but you know. So we will start there. I actually have to blow my nose, so I am going to do that. There was one time I was doing a fellowship at the University of San Francisco has poetry archives, and I was looking through a series of different videos from the 80s, audio from the 70s, 50s, and there was like one video where someone just needed to blow their nose like during their reading, and I like promised myself I will always stop and blow my nose. After watching Obama win his first presidency, we go see Tina Tuna. You take Anna Mae's stage name and make it fish. Dressed in tulle and sparkle and platform stilettos, drag Tina, more masculine than her muscles can ever be, into a river so queer the water maquillages our faces. I'm a clap waiting to happen. Your hands, thick and brimming, articulate the beat of our bodies meeting. The church wakes in my chest. The choir quivers with Tina Turner's lips. Your mouth around every note, without your baritone pouring into that hoarse hook about breaking and staying. How do you not sink into song until lyrics grin with your teeth? Between your hard cleavage, I slip a 5 into the wailing aperture found in any woman's heart, into the part of the sun we don't see as blue. Lady in the house, kitchen speeches. 1, bitches. I'm here beautifully unadorned, my words, peers. I know your gardens, her bent over back, her knees in this earth, our mother's hands. I've been searching for one pure answer, one complete thing to feed loss. Something grown for your mouths, a recipe my pots don't refuse. Laboring between the hard between and not a break, a miss in the atmosphere, our mutated Eves, we are first stage zombie. We've put our purses on ground, and when we dream of fish, we don't want them pregnant. There is a snake sucking your milk and you like it. When nails are painted red, it's a certain suggestion. Put on your feathers and make thunder with your plow. I may be over-ripened. Spoiled because I was left to go soft. Willing yourself from under the weight of too little admiration, ladybugs take up residence. Roots get suffocated and we need broader reach. In our small paradise, tomatoes were city in taste. Dirt so dry it was a dying kiss. Love changes your want. 2, bitches. After 25 years underwater, a town resurfaces. Its first breath startles the wound. The ruins we left are born again. I've been told to starve them, but there's no need. Saying thank you to an abandoned face has no bearing on her now. You're a bone in her voice she pitched a long time ago. I have jade and regrets, and when I'm held in a dark place, this body's sarcophagus. The evacuation happening around me, its grief, ancient and never born, turns me sour, feels of little good. I wonder about these honeycombs, these elegant divides. We all know it takes a village to raise and kill a child. Call them pollutants. I have proof we can make clouds. From the snake below, I predict the stones that lay our hearts down. There is one road in, you must walk through someone's living room to get out. You're not standing alone, the radio tuned in your bedroom to a yesteryear song. You are affirmative in your dance, forgotten vocabulary dug from the deep pockets of your purse, sweetly in August, through the crack I witness you. 3, bitches, does this desire for unconditional love inhale into us the butcher's breath? Our appetites require more traps and labor. I'm at the bus station rubbing my curves down so they fit less vulnerably. Once in the woods, I feel the multiplying effect of one voice, frogs opening portals beneath a shandy night when moss has a private touch. I watch all my mother's hands to see her capabilities, what she needs into her care, the seasonings dropped into fish stew. What broth is worthy of her spoons? What she cooks and what she loves has nuanced mixologies. At first, the natives couldn't see the Columbus ships, no language for what's before their eyes. There are those hindsights for consideration. You say, I knew it in my gut and the gut got ignored, and what is wounded and wise, confident and sure, gets locked in a basement, gets walked on all fours, gets internalization. So many monkeys on your backs, you don't see us anymore. 4, bitches, small, tiny bugs, not ants, ate a 2-foot weed to the dirt. Imagine what they do to our babies. The eggshells that remained, my grandmother mixed into the potting soiled. Her mother-in-laws grew sharp tongues. Is anger a machine that eats the heart's lion, leaves it in a cave to approximate in sheep's wool? For every month of March, regardless of how it's orchestrated, a drumline that hurts. I don't know what armories we've constructed for all those arms estranged from their torsos, a sign that soon you enter a town of those who cannot pass from here. This is not the same box that promises a VCR, instead offers old news and expired coupons to entertain our surprise that we don't get what we pray for. That fantasy is altered by the road. What is given can be taken as not intended, and forgiveness is a master of arrangement. You're the Most Beautiful Thing started with my friends telling me or asking me or demanding of me, I don't know what the verb is, but they were like, you need to write like more gay poems, write some gay poems. And I was like, what's a gay poem? And so I wind up finding this list of like derogatory terms for, like a list of terms for gay in different languages on Wikipedia in 2009. And from there, I just started to like look at the translations, and yes, they were derogatory. They had these ways of sort of like being against the feminine or the domestic, but there was like something so beautiful in the translations as well. And so a lot of the titles in this collection are taken from that list. And one of the things that was most noticeable is that Mary got repeated over and over. And so the book closes out on 7 Marys. In both Spanish and Catalan, there are several derogatory alterations of Mary that mean gay. And if any of you are sort of like hip hop heads, old school hip hop heads, I open up this section with Mary, Mary by Run DMC. 7 Marys. And so I'm just gonna read the lyrics like it's a poem. Mary, 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 you cold thumb sucking, looking for you, but you keep ducking. I wanna find you, I gotta tell you something. So just be quiet and don't say nothing. Mary, 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 why you out there stunting? Supposed to be with me, but now you're frontin'. We started out new, you used to be true. Now you're bugging, what's wrong with you? Mary, 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 why you bugging? Mary, 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 I need your hugging. Run DMC. Mary, R-E-D. And of course, there's 7 Marys. And there's, you know, sort of typically in the rainbow, before the expansion of it, there's 7 colors. So I play with those 7 colors. So we have Mary, R-E-D. You have gone, and so has my beauty, and you are my rejection, firm and as knowing as this ground that cannot hold still. You said, I've imagined you dead, so this death I've become. I take the dirt and I'm leased to martyr, but starve myself organically. I'm spiritual in my suffering, died in you and in many others, gone rigor mortis, wandering where I put myself to rest in pieces. I'm no more alive than when you left, the phantom pain of wanting my head each time Mercury retrogrades. My sobs bring the effluvia of your memories to a dream. I smell you like yesterday. Your outfit is far too fag to be angelic. Your posture welcomes, and then I'm alarmed into beating this heart without you. It's my hand against my chest when it's realized hard truths come in brick form. Mary O. Having sex during menses in a bonded relationship is a very powerful way of sharing blood. Why do you think there has been such a taboo? Why were you stared away from the blood mysteries for eons? Perhaps because it would open doors of knowledge that the gods did not wish you to have. Blood contains the archives of personal, planetary, and celestial experience. When blood is experienced in a sexual union, you are flooded with waves of knowledge, much of it beyond your present ability to understand and integrate. Eureka freeze, Marciniak put shebang before our brains and bless you. You've been marked on the neck and souls too. I have my same rituals, hot bath and cayenne tea, legally blonde and OG Kush, Randy's warm, you're strapped on. You set a spell with your M-I-double-S-I-double-S-I-double-P. I'm ludicrous as mayflies. We go towards street light, shell signs, aim for fireworks, fanatic for any moon. Our lives risk for good intentions, doing it in the middle of the street. This is your house, Mario, and your part in these curtains. Yell, Mary. You walk off with my skin, I lit a candle. Your absence is one long scarf, and at the bull's eye of this concentric circling, I am. Loving you was like trying to hold water, so I began to drink. You wanted too what I wanted too, and yet not us together. Haunts me like the Hudson with a 737 on its tongue, how silent I can be. Listen, the kitty in the crawl space is in heat. It's unfair she can be vocal about her cunt, so lightning in her need. You selected the sand for our hourglass, and when I flipped, it was about time. I can do horrible things to your ego, grow fingernails long and hard and unbreakable, put my initials in your face. With every muscle, do you remember lifting my breast and returning my heart to its cage? Your thumb imprinted in blood travels its grooves, and a ballot brings me to my window. You were never so bold to love out loud. I can smell your ghost. I solemnly swear, I promise not to diss you. The conflagration frees these ashes to be radical in ourselves. Mary don't grow on trees. I shake this heart to get the last coin out, the last folded bill where you wrote, do not spend. My fear of being without is so rich it needs to be reminded that there is a dollar I can fall back on. I've fallen. Your hands catch in memory, and this concussion is my trust in all things not there. The ground, however, doesn't reveal your steps, has no attachment to your gait, even though there are hips and shoulders that show your motion, men with faces that is your face, staring for the green light, and the orange trees grow the scent of our first meeting. When the missing inquires on your whereabouts, I don't want to know where you are. You're a peculiar bird, and I've kept your blue feather. I parent this distance, which is now about to enter the first grade, and she has your brown eyes. I give her the softened openness my love once lacked. Each time she walks into those school doors, I wait for the bells to bring her back. Mary Blue. You're my Bedford Stuyvesant, my bow and taboo. I get ride or die with my arrow. All is petty bull and pussy willows, your gravitas church Nina. New moon daughter, Sade is our hands holla. Purple rain, sunshine, you hot damn grace and gracias. Word to my mother like this, God is witness. Baby, baby, please, baby, please, baby, baby, please let down your puzzle. Bet my Verdi chakra, your buxom breath. Mark my toms, I'll solve your 99 balloons. There's no going back from raw. New story, you, mezzo and wood bending. My love, you're the darling dang. True dat, true dat, true dat, dat, dat. Mary, I knew to put wings on all of who I was. In a ritual of letting go, I burnt others. The kitchen sink has a scorch mark. Still this ache in its silent amplifications. No one listens with your years. Breakfast is not the ceremony it used to be with its toast. Driving down the West Side Highway, the city starts to rise, and two French boys in the back who later kiss on our balcony And just last summer, the towers were the skyline. From full-size mermaids and fish tanks, we've changed our snoop to conservative volumes and quieted your Holy Spirit, but the finger snap could never be smoked. Violet Mary, you are a cocoon I dare not break. The struggle to live will free your beauty. Who am I to interfere with your journey? You said, with the hills going 60 miles per hour south. And I remember where we were going. This house by the riverside knew flood and bonfire, and we made it. We broke and knew ourselves to be a love rich, trees eat off it. We do too want grief as an artifact, an intimate chaos to do good. I'm a woman grown better by my choices. We could not see our bodies as easily as we thought. Our darlings I bury to give them another life. As sure as a bitch who breaks her chain, this house knows a rainbow too. You all are so quiet, just clap for me. I haven't read those in a while. They're fun to read. So Who's Your Daddy was a journey of finding and reconnecting with my own father, a journey of inviting others to write letters about their fathers. I used those letters to create collage poems and different personae in the collection. My mom even wrote a letter which then became the prologue in the book. And then I went to Guyana to meet my father, and then that became like the last section in the book. And it really sort of taught me something about the ways in which, you know, our private struggles and heartbreak are also collective. And there's ways in which we open up through the sort of, you know, ruptures that's created by heartbreak. And sometimes it's not so bad because you can let people in to play and learn and poet with you. So I'll read the prologue, but then I'm gonna skip to section 2 of the book. So prologue. This is a grandfather feeling. Here these walls convert into a perpetual bloom of cherry blossoms. Petals as understudies for tears in constant descent when repressed grief climbs up my mother's chest. The grief is her father's shape. She never heard his I love you. Cheated with a white woman, gambled away and didn't pay taxes on the family house. His bags brimmed with hurt shirts and broken trousers. My mother's petals. Dad, remember you used to take me to the bar. My mother's petals. In return, all the men I lust, I let break me. My mother's petals. It's difficult to say, I love you. I move at the durational speed of this grief water, a rhythm that suits the running man. On a visit to my mother in New Jersey from the Bay Area, where I lived postgraduate school, she takes a long, good look at me. She's transported, updating her visual, taking stock of what she saw last against what's now. Her eyes treasure a find. You have Gerald's hands. Your feet are his too. I pull my hands and feet closer to where we belong. In that way, you draw people to you, she says. That's his charm. I have a Shango dream. Yoruba god of fire, lightning and thunder depicted with a double axe, a white and red wedding. I wear red Converses, a monarch train, my arms free of fathers. Bing's sister told me to be careful not to sweep them feet as a young girl. You wanna not get married? I swept the floor, swept every love child inch of my body from the ting my mother chased. Truth be told, under certain weather, a young girl becomes a weak woman. Cloudy heart, spine partly, I felt the pressure of an adult front. Proposed 3 different times, drunk, to the same ex. I couldn't vow to a blade that knew my inside soft. I'm already of split definition. I'm not sorry for my one-way streets. My way or the highway, manly waters incompatible with my sex. Swear by my cocksure shine, don't believe one person can give you all that you need. Polyamory is the way to burnish. I'm not your daddy, will not top you to stay. You are your own bottom. I work at pleasing me because I can't please you, and that's why I do what I do. I'm not trying to be in love. I'm searching for a new preposition. Discerning and cautious about who gets close to me, my trust is earned. Love is a verb and is space and not asking me where I'm going all of the time. I panic at the knowledge of my own real existence. My attachments are to memories, light bulbs, cardstock, dreams, immaterial drops of golden sun. Let's remain under the spell of objectification. Once the chase is done, I eat the sweet thing. Unconditional love is a boat that has sailed. Conditions now apply. From home to globe, I know the extremes of people. My hate is a soluble line. I take all sides, shape-shift, my moods and language mutable, too slippery for words and evaluation. I'm used to being unaffected and misrepresented. I live short and fine as the doll most nestled. My bathwater is nobody's business. My complaints squeakless. I burp, and goddamn, Gerald is noisome and stinky. I break a woman's heart for reasons not her but me. For feeling romantically incompetent, for guilt that her needs do not matter to me. She is better off. Oh, she keens a city of sound born from split metal in a felled mountain. The ripping reveals a network of rebarb and never to hold earth again. She weeps a river, valleys wet, babbles creeks and baggage, sobs mistfully north to south. It is clear where we end now, and she is rushing far, then farther, pushing out her banks, making sure the flora and fauna damns my name. Romantic, intimate others are rios. Rivers reflecting, rivers eroding my edges, rivers running and rivers drying shudders. A Rio before confluxes with the Rio after, rivers opening up my heart for me to see. These fatherless Rios I love make themselves lost to be found. Objects for the daily, keys and wallets, agendas and phones, they can't find their things, seriously. Her stuff in nooks, spread and sprawled, commands attention, requires care, irks me finding her glasses on her head, credit card in the jacket worn the night before, nail file on the table where she left it, notebook right there. They get stressed out, neck tight, and shallow breath to look for what's mine. I never asked these rivers, where's my father? So in the month of August, I spent time in Finland, in the countryside, and I'm now just trying to plot a way to get back to Finland. It was a digital detox, which was fucking amazing. Like, I didn't have to respond to anything. No, it was, no phone, no internet, just the trees, long walks in the country, sauna every day. Oh my God, sauna every day. Great food. And I just wrote poems. I wrote these sort of like lyric love poems, and I'll share a few of those too. Okay. So because we're doing, I guess, this food kind of thing, I guess I'll start with hard love to swallow. Okay. Yeah, and so just really working with like the direct address and just really like amping up my rhythms in different ways. And just really thinking about how when you're in that sort of magical musical flow of language, how it just leads you to these surprising combinations of words. A hard love to swallow. I'm dismayed. Ash enters my head when it's rain I'm calling for. My body seeks her rain at a latitude opposite Maine. My brain hasn't applied that we are divorced. There's some thought willing to boss the present into past. Do we not remember how every theory of the erotic perished in that marriage? Kisses were a domestic habit to give dissatisfaction no way out. It's how diplomats kiss each other 3 times on the cheeks and then order genocide from their mouths. How is it my arm is reaching from that grave, this hand reaching for ash after 13 years of a coven without magic? I dimmed my heart to the furthest corner of the closet, spoke and forgot I had that dress sentimentally bagged, even though it bared my wrist. I wear the label I need until the buttons fall off, and rain is saying, darn, my dear, and I am warless in my chest, silk and weft. She comes to me like I am a lake, acclimates to my cool, in the swallow of her legs first, her head enters last, and I was nearly near extinction, forgot again the medicine of deep breathing, until she poured into me a language, wondrous and clarified, and still those bits of ash we called lessons learned. So a lot of these poems were, so I've been recently like dating someone who's just so magical, and she's listening right now, so say hi. So she's like, I want to hear you read. So a lot of these poems are addressed to her. For the Farrier. You sound so good. You sound like the best part of the sky. I can see my hand like it's the most expensive rainbow in the parade. I come with real eyes, humbled by the cliche's truth in its worn path to Rockland. I'm looking for which boat to ride your wave, or I will die, or I will truly drown in your every greeting. Say it to me. Say it to me, so very soft, say it to me. All I'd ever knew was to listen for the farrier, for the moment when rain lost its language and began to rhyme with receding silver lines and the weight of cumulus grammar. You and I have no time for wasting. Years have gone by without morning's coital pleasure. Memory is low in our banks. We haven't profited from our kisses. Those deep stares elongate our investments. These days, I look at every zero as a portal, as love's aperture, our bodies continuous even with death. The fear is a silence too wool for this heat. The blue linen rolled out from our hearts dry windless. My love, I'm electric with beginnings. Those hours of witching and dawn when we cannot refuse our starlings. And prepare to take leave of your senses. In the countryside, sleep and wake a crane with a mechanical song. Its throat a metallic cubicle where the precision of its edge is forged with first rays and mist. And it's happening to me, a melody imperfect to others, but the truest shape to come home from my mouth. The tradition is for me to bend my knee and feel the charge of green, the mineral loam that can grow our love botanical. I remember once the gin on your lips, this kiss that lingered and anointed our romance with the sweetest nomenclature. My hand has been holding your hand since the 1900s. We allowed rain to purple our shoulders, resisted the elevator's breakdown. We struck our lighters in the theater and understood the labor of stars. I'm the moth to your décolletage. I suffer the weather of your steel town blue to bring you the first blink of my day. You say you adore me. I say there's a door left unmarked on our hearts. You're the only spoon I want to be stirring. Hardy and hot house and picked from the garden, your beauty makes everything loud. Don't you hear the stone hedges breaching their way through ground, rising like baby's first set of teeth? Tell me, my love, is this not our season for falling? And this is a fun one to write. My penultimate poem. It's been so long without you. It's been so long without you. I'm longing without you, without the long you I've been waiting for. I'm without chime and sitting B flat for a breeze without key. The canary collapsed on its way towards light and the courts overturned our uteruses. It's been 25 years of Godot and distance have habituated our relating. Our bodies no longer ecstatic by the storm's approach. What we discovered in our youth is now jade, a necklace of snatched pearls. What's been long are my truths, an orgasm without organs, hands stiffened from trespasses against my fences. Each fault line extends my hair, and any act to love myself transmutes me to an ape. And what is a raisin without the sun? A long night when the moon is eyeing my roof, clutching its purse and declaring its liberalism. There's been nothing special since Michael Jackson died, and the thrill is building a wall without the labor it relies on so cheaply. For you, I cash out my credit cards. And why would student debt be cleared by a government who indoctrinated us? It's a mother who always said, I owe her for my birth and attendant care. Without a mouth to be fed, I would have been belly aching. I'm no worse off than any child left at a military base, but it is these long arms that can hug you straight. So buttons on a train track frequented by horses, so gallop towards this face. This sought after in your dreams God begged for face of a woman. It's not even math why you aren't here. No, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. It's been without an equator. My exegesis, a long sorcery and generation without cursive. My love is so round in my chest. Who's going to teach it about you and what it means to bend and breathe outside the space of longing? All right. Okay, I have to read Cougar because you all are the land of Cougar country. Okay. So I'll close it out with this one. Cougar. Blanco coat and silver streaks, full moon highlights the prowl in your back. Air bitten with a roar, my breath arches tsunamic. Your bangs make a one-eye view. Look me inch after meter per hour, show me your breasts pulse racing. Give me thigh, fingers sterling ring on a calf ripe from dancing. Step from my doorstep, you're dirty with street and a long day too busy. In all the wrong ways you're wet. Behind the ears, forehead dew stricken, and not a dawn, a lucky clover forage, a bullet neat of little death. How hungry has the mountain made you? Which boulder surly on your hips? Have you suffered a yellow rose's beauty stem in your teeth? Most of your years lived in the 20th century. Back then, you trotted Fox. You roamed the Hampton, then Brooklyn, tracking my footprints, genius of my pheromonal erudition. But no words could leave your mouth, turning twice to the right. Memory becomes 3D, and I'm the realist when you introduce yourself in this Massachusetts Bay colony. Let your tail swag between your legs. In the village you can't say, start talking. Baby, chivalry or improvise in the plaza. Walk your fours, be fierce in every category. The cherry blossoms pirouette down my spine is the season for my appetite. I'll birth litter and letters, sweet swans and winsome trumpets to be kissed in the ravine of my collarbones, licked clean and dashing for the holy act you make of parting your lips. Thank you. I'll take them and run.
Yes, all right.
I don't know if I need the microphone, I'm pretty loud.
Well, but for people to hear online too.
Oh,
yeah?
that's true, okay. Oh my gosh. First, let me just say that was freaking magical. Oh my gosh, I wish I brought a notebook. I pulled out a calendar to write it down because I don't want to forget that. That was, I know this isn't a question, just give me a minute, I'm sorry. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
I was on this journey and that was powerful. You are powerful.
Thank you.
And what you do is
What were you writing down?
words.
Let me hear some.
Words. I was inspired. You're talking about like jade and sun and pulse And some things you said really stuck with me, like, you sound like the best part of the sky. I don't know about anybody else. Chills. I had goosebumps. Extraordinary. You are extraordinary. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I cry. Just so
Oh my
that was
God.
beautiful. That was, anyways, my question. I'm getting to my question now. Sorry, guys. I'm a talker. Everyone knows I'm a talker. I also like to write poetry. I love to write poetry. But, you know, as a person of color, a lot of my poetry it's bold, right? I'm a bold person, right? I just pulled out a calendar and told everyone on Zoom that, so I'm a bold person. And what I write is bold, you know? And my question is, how do you, as a person of color, just use yourself, like, go about expressing your work in the most authentic way? That's a hard question, I'm sorry.
It's, for poetry is where I go to express my most authentic self, right? I feel like everything else is sort of a translation to make myself neat and presentable and nice and kind and all of these social ways that we engage each other. So I think the act of poeting is the act of bringing my authentic self into language. And so it is that brave space for me. So I'm trying to say the things that I don't usually say in my day-to-day conversations, my day-to-day interactions. If anything, I'm really trying to gather back again those moments when truth was sort of bubbling up in my throat, just to kind of feel its architecture in my body, the ways it's scoring me, so that when I sit down in a quiet space, and I can like return to that scoring, find the language, find the words, and just see what comes out. So it is this constant practice of trying to mirror the truth that I'm often curating for other people's ability to digest. You know, does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah, but the finger snap cannot be smoked.
I have a question. Thank you so much for your reading.
Thank you.
I'm curious if you think the poems you wrote in Finland were different from previous poems you had written or published. Did you feel like something broke open or changed for you in that experience?
Sort of like now reading those poems with these poems, I'm like, oh, you're just doing your usual thing. But what broke open for me was kind of stepping into sort of territory that I felt was like personally cliche for me, right? I think with other poems and earlier work, I know that I was in the realm of the cliche, and I was like just trying to find ways around it, to remix it, But this time I was like, I'm just gonna say love. I'm just gonna say soul. And I'm gonna add some more gerunds into this poem. Like, just all of the things I avoided, I was like, we're just gonna bring you back and see what happens now. Because there's less fear. So what changed is the fear, my relationship to these imagined restraints I put on myself, and recognizing they're not necessary. There's a music that I'm keeping myself away from through fear. And if that's the case, I'm not using it in an intelligent way. I'm not using it consciously. So it's just a kind of like opening up and stepping into a room and just dusting the furniture and being like, I live here, And then also just, being in a place too where I also felt like I was in a different sort of room of love, like something so sort of exciting and new and dreamy and like you're the best part of the sky. Like, it's like that's what it brought, and so it's just so sunshiny. It's like really shiny and sunny in this place. So so in that regard, it's just like kind of like stepped into terrains that were already there. It was like now I just decided that I can walk barefoot into that space and experience a different sensation in a more nuanced and with more vulnerability and with a desire to play differently.
Heather, we'll do one more here in person, then we've got a question from the chat online.
So I apologize, I haven't been able to make this question concise.
Oh, it's totally fine.
I've got to make a claim before I can ask it, and the claim is I feel, in my experience, at least in the Western world, that being an artist or a poet is romanticized as being very individualistic. And you said that in our personal struggles, and you talk a lot about that in your poetry, there's a collective struggle. And I'm just going to quote what I wrote, and it might not make sense. What do you think of whether your poetry is in some way an echo of many people's struggles that like give it room to be drawn out and placed onto your poetry, I guess, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
And as the artist, you don't have to agree with the individualistic thingy, and I would love to hear about that as well.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I guess how does maybe your poetry not being personal, when somebody puts their own self onto it, affect you as an artist?
It doesn't. The act of reading poetry is the act of sort of, stepping into the sorcery. It's going to work on you, and it's going to work on you in whatever ways it needs to work on you. Things are going to get activated. Things are going to rise up. You're going to feel sensations you haven't felt before. You're going to hear a word that was so familiar, but the way it's said by that poet and in that poem, it starts to shimmer like a diamond. And so the reader has their own experience, and that's none of my business. In terms of the collective experience, I was saying this earlier in Grant's class. I'm one of 7 children. My mom is one of 7. And so big family, big voices, tall people. Everyone has a joke. And the ways in which they use language is just fascinating. It's beautiful. So for me, language is collective, storytelling is collective. And so I am an echo of their voices, of their journeys, their stories, a collection of all of that. And I am the one who I've chosen to poet, to take my lineage, my ancestry, my ancestors, all of that, and sort of render their stories within my contemporary moment in time. But I see all my family members as artists, as creatives. And so because of that, my I is collective, it is communal. There's too many fucking people in it sometimes, but there we have it. So but what it offers is the ways in which we think the I is an individual experience, I honestly think is wrong. It is the accumulation of multiplicity. What you have to do, the responsibility of your body, this I, the narrative I, the optic I, is to figure out how to 360 like how to turn, how to look, how to perceive, how to feel in all sorts of ways, because it's the responsibility of that multiplicity. Like you've been gifted with it. And so, you know, it's like a sociological imagination. It is a spiritual imagination. It's ancestral imagination. It's all of the things that have been sort of poured into you. And plus for me, it's just this way of like thinking through something. Like I don't have to think through it alone. How like strange to think all of these people around us, like right now in the world, to think we're alone. I mean, you know, empire has done something to us to make us believe that, right? It's, you know, race, sexism, all of this, all of these isms and constructions of identity have put us in our own little honeycombs, these divided ways of thinking, when really we're hanging out together all of the time. We're impacted, we know it, we feel it. It's in our hearts. We get depressed, we get happy, you know? So why not use that? Why not step outside of your solitary sense of yourself and be in the action of language? And that means being in the action of people and what that may bring up. Its discomfort, its beauty, its treasures. You know, wounds become windows, you know. It's so many things can happen, and I'm open to that process, that like just what can become of it, like how I can see again, you know, like every relationship is an act of seeing again. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
We have a question from the online chat. And this is from Brittany. Thank you for sharing your heart with us. My question is, how do you balance exploring sexuality and its romantic and sexual, physical and emotional manifestations? And is physical touch your love language?
Is physical touch my love language?
Yeah, I don't know. It's LOL random, sorry, but that's the author's words here, yes. Is it something that comes naturally to the poems, or is it did you reach for these connections in a different way than you would in person? Is my interpretation of that last part. All right.
I do like touch. So I think what it is that I just try to just start in the senses with my work, and then I really love synesthesia. I love just sort of blending the senses in a way so that it becomes haptic. So yes, right. So I guess the love language of my poetry is haptics. So how to put together language in such a way that it resonates, right? To create a musicality so that it resonates, right? So it's really trying to touch you. I'm trying to touch you in all sorts of ways. Thank you, and kind of move us, because there's something that happens in touch that's just really beautiful and it's activating. And so in terms of, I very much love Audre Lorde's essay on the power of the erotic and the way in which she redefines the erotic as, sort of being in all of our senses, like really inhabiting our body, our flesh, and using that as a sense of knowing. And so for me, I am inhabiting my sense of knowing, my body as a sexual, erotic entity and energy, as a social being. I'm animal, all of these things. I touch, I taste, I smell, and all of that is a source of meaning making and knowledge making, and it's my intelligence. This is how I'm fucking moving through the world. And so for me not to source information from being with and being in and being alongside all of this, right? All life, it's just, it would be a disservice to like everybody involved. So it's like really, learning how to, be present in the body so that I can embody language, so I can inhabit language, so that I can get at those like nitty gritty, itty parts and find the words to make the thing felt.
Thank you so much for the wonderful poems. Question about your father. How much does he continue to play a role in generating poetry for you?
I would say in the sort of metaphorical way of sort of absence, right? Also kind of thinking about how to negotiate, like how to be with and be in relationship and build relationship with someone who is like never there. Like that's like the place where there's so many questions, and so like it just feels pre-verbal, and it also feels like I have to develop language around that. Like it feels alien. Like it's like you see my whole body. It's like this. It's like I'm floating around. Like, so it is a way in which I don't feel grounded. It's a way in which I don't feel connection. I don't feel a sense of loving tethering, and how to make that connection. So, and it's not that we even have a relationship now, right? And so there's a way in which you just have to like be with the loss and be with the loss again and grieve again, and how the grief just like takes you out of your body, sends you sort of floating around and being in the experience of like not being tethered, not being in that elemental held in a place. And it's frightening sometimes. And it makes me think about death. It makes me think about and understand religion, the ways in which we draw moral conclusions. I understand it. I understand why we make myths. And so for me, it becomes like the enterprise of like human understanding, and in this really large and grand way, which feels overwhelming at times. But needing to hold all of that with the peculiarity and the particulars of day-to-day relationships and being with people gives it contour and understanding, and allows for a different kind of intercorporeality, not just empathy, but learning to be here in the here-ness of others. So it brings me in a place that's so abstract, and in that abstraction, I really want to like make trees and water and build a world again. Does that answer your question?
When you come to a place in writing a poem and there's a couple of choices, and you realize one choice in how you compose the poem will create a clearer meaning, or maybe a clearer image, and another choice will create better music, do you choose the music or the meaning?
Oh my God. Okay, which is funny. Okay, because a hard love to swallow had very like people's names in it. So that was like a practice I was doing. I was like, I'm just gonna name them. I'm gonna name them. Right? I would put their name in a poem. It was awful. The music was awful. And so I replaced the names with ash and rain. Yes, so I choose the music every time. I do. And there was so there's like 2 versions in that poem, and then there was like another ending that I was trying to work out, and it always goes back to the music. And it has to be like a really like a music that's, it has to somehow complete the logic of the scoring already, right? In a way that gives a little something to it, right? Not predictable, because then if you're going along, you're like, oh, she's about to like drop that beat. But it's like, yeah, I'm about to drop that beat, then I'm gonna go, like, like over there. So I love those moments when that can happen. So if the meaning makes that happen, I'm all for it. But usually the meaning and the music are like together for me.
One more from the chat online, if that's all right. Okay.
My love language is acts of service. Okay.
Just reading the chat.
I know, it's fine.
This is from Hallie. When writing a poem about something that scares you, do you try to find things that are fitting into that category and write about them, or do you let the scary things that have happened happen to you and find what's beautiful in that? I guess my question is, how do you let yourself be scared in the poem, but write it so intrinsically?
Oh, that's good. I think, similar to your question, the poem is the brave space for me, so that's the place to be scared. The thing is like, I think I'm already being scared, right? It's like I let myself kind of have my emotions before I get to the page in this interesting way, because when I am in a sort of extreme emotional state, even when I'm like really happy, like any state of just like feeling is just too much. You just got to feel it, and then, just let it settle in you and see how it has scored you in some way, and then that's when I start writing. So if I'm angry and if I'm scared, I'm going to be angry and I'm going to be scared. And usually those are times when I'm, talking to friends, talking to my sweetie, just kind of like working it out in therapy. I gotta feel the feeling, because if I don't know the landscape of the feeling, I can't begin to language it. So for me, there's just an exploration of just like being in the like depth of the emotion in ways that are healthy and sustainable for me too, right? So that's why a part of it is also kind of journaling, not trying to get into this lyric mode, talking with others, so that the experience so I am able to start to develop a kind of vocabulary, since the experiencing of the emotion is priming me. Now I have to figure out what is that alphabet, and once I have a clear sense of that, then I go to the page. So I think it is pretty much like be scared, because really when you're in a moment of being scared, I'm not like, let's write a poem. I'm like, let's get the fuck out of there. So I'm just trying to be present in the emotion and respond in the ways that can teach me about my body and how it's making meaning of being, in whatever triggering moment that is.
Would you like to do one more question? Or?
Yeah, totally.
We have book people from Moscow right here behind you, and they're selling books. She goes say hi to Bree and gets some books. Reese's got a lot of great books. Yeah. The last question is from Blaze. You mentioned that poems in Who's Your Daddy utilized collage. How did you construct these, and what does that form do for your poems?
it was so easy to construct because we were all saying similar things. It was like, oh my God. The thing is like seeing the repetition, the iterable nature of it all. It was like, oh, similar voices, similar voices, similar voices. And the great part is that when a poet sort of asks for a letter, she then gets poetry in those letters too. So there was like so much like beautiful lines and phrases that I was like, oh yeah, this is good. So the work, you know, looking at what was in front of me, the material itself, like the same way, you know, a sculptor stares at marble and then all of a sudden it's like boobs and a belly emerges. It was a similar kind of thing. It was like, I'm looking at all of these letters and it's like, oh yeah, that's bubbling up. Okay, we're gonna take those pieces. Oh yeah. And so now these are gonna become the voices of like me imagining being with my friends and having this conversation. So it's a kind of listening to the work. And when you see those patterns, using those patterns to then create. And that's the beauty of working with others, like to extend yourself beyond yourself. It offers creative possibilities you didn't think were there. So it was really easy. And what it also taught me to do is that, especially in Who's Your Daddy, and I started to do a little bit of it in You're the Most Beautiful Thing, is thinking about how to blend other voices, right? So a kind of a lyrical citation style. So how do you take this other register of voice and how do I like blend it with my voice or harmonize it or, you know, create a dissonance with it, right? So with one of the Mary O poems, there's a thick quote from, you know, this sort of spiritualist Barbara Marciniak talking about aliens and ancient aliens and stuff like that. And so like that's the register of that voice. So how do I go from that register and just, you know, start talking about sexy times and having your period? You know, and that becomes the challenge. And it becomes this way of, it's almost like creating metaphor, right? So I'm taking this one strand, then I have my one strand, and together we're kind of creating a new meaning with those two together, right? A whole different field of music, a whole kind of blending of experiences, a bringing together of points of views. It's just like creating this whole other field to enter into and to understand. So for me, it was just like an interesting process of singing with others.
Arisa White, thank you so much. Let's round of applause. Thank you for joining us, and please stop by and get a book on your way out. Thank you to Bree, Book People, for being here. Thank you all for joining us tonight. It's lovely to see you, and we'll see you next time. Okay, bye.